Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another TheeSportsScoop video. Today, I'm going over the top 10 teams going into NFL Week 9 of this season. Crazy, we're halfway there, almost, since Week 9 has not hit yet. But really, what a season it's been. I don't know. Let me know if you think it's been an underwhelming or overwhelming season in terms of just your ability to watch the game. Obviously, I haven't been able to watch as much as I would like to, but it's still been a very, very fun season. But as always, let us know in the comments down below. Subscribe, watch full video. And yeah, let me know what you think of your picks down below, and let's get into the video. So I find it very interesting, especially the rankings this week, because we've seen a lot of the big ones fall. We've obviously seen the Bengals lose, the Cardinals obviously lose to the Packers in a game that would probably secure the top spot in most people's power rankings. I think the Cowboys have risen again in a surprising win with Ian Rush at the helm on that was Sunday night, I believe, and then obviously the Chiefs winning finally against my Giants in the most excruciating fashion. I thought the Giants could have almost won, but unfortunately, the taunting is a very big problem in the league. But yeah, it's definitely been an interesting week. I think we haven't been consistent with power rankings, so I believe we haven't had a video about power rankings go up since maybe week 4, week 5. We have this new recording system. I hope you guys kind of like this new setup, so we'll be able to push out a lot more videos. This is a lot easier and it looks a lot better. Definitely a problem with us recording is, we would do it and it wouldn't be great, but now that we have this kind of setup that we can easily record on, we'll definitely be getting more content out. So letting you guys know that, make sure you guys subscribe. Go follow our social medias at TheeSportsScoop and let us know what you think down below. But we'll get into the rankings here in a minute. Not a minute. We'll get into them now. I'm not going to make you guys wait. And at number 10, obviously starting from 10 to 1 because we want you guys to watch full video, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, I think definitely right now, and what I had to record this for the second time, very big theme when I record is I mess up a lot. But I think the Bengals, you kind of look at them last week. Obviously, the main storyline, coming out of Week 8 was that loss to the Jets 34-31. And to add insult to injury, the loss to the Jets backup quarterback in Mike White, going for over 400 yards and winning that game in a game-winning drive. And then defensively, a good performance from the New York Jets. But I think we kind of have to look past that a little bit. I think we have to look at what the Bengals have been able to do this season, what Joe Burrow, what Zach Taylor, and especially with who they found in Jamar Chase have been able to do this season. It's still very impressive. Obviously, you look at the AFC, and I think when you look at the Bengals right now, this division I would arguably say is not up for grabs right now, but you're looking at teams like the Bills, Ravens, Titans, not the dominance you would expect them to have. Still very, very good, but not the incredible dominance in the AFC, whereas you look at the NFC and it's so much more top-heavy and so much more competitive. So the Bengals I would definitely expect they could contend for this division. I still think they can. Obviously, that loss sets them back a little bit as they would be tied for the division right now with the Titans if they had won that game, obviously at 5-3 now. But I think right now they're still top of their division respectively. I believe they're right there. Obviously the Steelers had the bye week, so they are a game back. But they would be, assuming if they had a game during that bye week and won, they would be 5-3, just like the Bengals. But they're at 4-3. The Bengals are not the top of the division, it's the Ravens. But the Ravens are 5-2. So that was very confusing. The Ravens are 5-2, Bengals 5-3 because the Ravens had that bye week this week, and then the Bengals obviously lost. But to get past that confusing bit, I do apologize. I think this Bengals team still has a ton of potential. I still think when you look at the top 10 teams, you look at kind of the connection that Burrow and Chase has, it's very hard for me to drop them off for any of the 12 teams that I didn't include. Teams kind of like the Steelers, maybe like a Patriots or a team that's been good, or maybe like obviously a Steelers, and maybe a Saints or a Panthers, one of those teams who is kind of fringe top 10. But I still think the Bengals retain that spot, and I still think that they are indeed a top 10 team. I think the question definitely comes down to, is this going to become a problem of consistency, or was that a kind of fluke game for them? But now going into our number 9 spot, we have the Chargers. I think definitely coming into this season, it would be a little bit surprising because the Chargers team is one of those teams where this team was expected. I said team very much. This team was expected to be a Super Bowl contender this year, or at least a contender for that NFC title game. And I think, not NFC, AFC title game. And I think when we really when you look at the Chargers, it's very hard to pinpoint the problem because I think Staley has been one of the best coaches in the league right now. I think it was a fantastic hire from the Rams. I think you took away a very key piece of that Rams defense and brought him in as a head coach, and he's been fantastic. You see that in the defensive side of the ball week in and week out. But I think it's more of a problem maybe on the performance of Herbert lately. I think Herbert has still been very good. I still think he has been a very good player, but now it's like, yeah, he's probably not winning MVP, whereas the first 3-4 weeks, it was like, this guy has a shot. Still, I'm not going to say Herbert is not going to have a good season. Obviously, this guy is athletically and physically gifted all over the board. But I think poor performances from him these past 2 weeks has definitely been a contributor. I was on a flight. I've completely forgetting. Oh, excuse me. They lost to the Patriots, obviously, this week, losing to a rookie quarterback. Talked about it in our weekly predictions if you guys want to go check that out. So it was obviously disappointing from the Chargers. I would say a little bit of a drop of form lately. I still think they can contend for this division, especially how it's somehow open now with the Raiders in front, but they're right there with the Raiders, the Chiefs obviously winning this week. But I still think the Chargers are a top 10 team. I think this offensive firepower they have cannot be below top 10. Kind of similar like the Bengals, where that connection, that Herbert, Mike Williams, obviously Austin Eckler, when this team is running offensively, it's a top 5 offense in the league. So having them there at 9, I think is fair. But let's move on to our number 8, where we have their division rival, the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, as you guys know, news recently, Henry Ruggs has been arrested for killing someone while drunk driving. Obviously, prayers up to the family of the person who passed away. Obviously, terrible news for obviously his career is not most likely his career is over. So obviously terrible things to hear. There's been a lot of bad news lately, obviously with the Ridley, the Derrick Henry injury. So we do want to send our condolences out to that family. But back to the more football aspect of it, they're not going to have Henry Ruggs. And I think the Raiders, when you look at this team, it's another. I say that a lot. When you look at this team, looking at the Raiders defensively, it's been a lot of a big step. I said this in our weekly. Casey Hayward, I think, has been one of the most. Him and Hassan Reddick have been the two most underrated, not even defensive free agent signings, just free agent signings in general. Casey Hayward has been fantastic. I would say you could argue week in and week out, depending on where you have him, could have been a top 5 candidate for that defensive player of the year, and not to mention Max Crosby, defensive lineman, who looks like a different animal this year. He looks fantastic. And then defensively, I think you've seen a big step up from Trayvon Mullen, who I've really liked, and he's been one of those classic cornerbacks who, those Clemson guys, kind of like the AJ Terrell, who struggle in their early years, but then develop. And Mullen's been very good this season. That duo that they've developed with Hayward and Mullen has been good so far. Obviously, and then you look at the offense, and it's Derek Carr, who we know has been consistently underrated. But, each year he comes out firing, and this year more than last. He's just been a very, very, very efficient quarterback. I think it's the best way to say it, to kind of put it. He's been just incredibly efficient in the kind of ability he has to survey the field. His turnover rate is great. I believe I'm not sure what the stat was. I'm not sure I said this. I believe I said this in our weekly predictions. He's one of the only quarterbacks with he had that one game where he did not he had 100% completion rate. I'm not sure where the stat was there, but you kind of look at this Raiders team, top of their division. This has to be a top 10 team. They've always been a team that's let down the second half of the season, but we're hoping this year that they continue that form and can get into the playoffs and can get double-digit wins. Obviously, right now as they sit at 5-2 and second in the AFC. But moving on to our next team, we're continuing with the AFC trend, and that is the Buffalo Bills. Look, the Bills have been good, and I think we knew this. The Bills were going to be a good team going into this season. We know how good the Bills are. We know, obviously, offensively, coaching-wise, defensively, how good they are. One of the best defenses in the league, arguably the best. And then, obviously, Josh Allen at the helm and Stephon Diggs. It's a very hard duo to stop for NFL defenses. But I think it's hard to pinpoint the problem, really, for the Bills, because I don't think there is one. Again, I'm completely forgetting. They beat the Dolphins. Excuse me. Beat the Dolphins 26-11 this week, a game they were expected to win division. And I think this division is with Miami kind of out of the contention as we expected them to be in this year. This should be their division, no doubt. And the only reason they're lower here is I think the teams at the top, performance-wise, I wouldn't say, if you were to talk about the Bills, I wouldn't say that they're hot right now. They're on a good streak, but they're not a hot team that I'm really excited to see. But I still think, obviously, the Bills, when you're talking about the Bills, when you have Josh Allen on the team, you're going to be a top 10 team, and they have been this year at 5-2. So they're right there. They're a bye week behind being the top of the AFC. So Obviously, props up to them, and I think they've been good this year. That they're don't over my saying I've been saying don't over explain when you don't need to. The Bills have been good. Unfortunately, there are just some teams that are ahead of them, I guess, because of recent performances. But the Bills have been good nevertheless. And moving on now to number 6, continuing the AFC trend. Obviously, as we know how good that NFC is, and it is the Baltimore Ravens, led by Lamar Jackson. Ravens were on bye week this week, so hard to kind of talk about. So I'd say if I had done rankings last week, I think the Ravens would be higher, but obviously dropping a little bit this week as they are third in the division at 5-2. But they've just been, the offense has been electric. I think the new kind of, obviously, as you guys know, if you guys know this channel, you know how much I love Rashad Bateman, and bringing him in just seems to, or finally him getting playing time just seems to be benefiting the Bills all over the board, as he's just been fantastic for them. Or not fantastic, but he's just been so effective. Marquise Brown, who's had a great season, someone who I always saw as an average guy, someone who was taking over a lot of taking over receivers who are much better than him. But he's been very good. The deep threat he has is one of the top 5 in the league right now, or maybe even top 3. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball, that's still good. Obviously not as good as it has been in past years. Marcus Peters is out with that ACL that he tore. I believe he was in preseason, if I'm not wrong, but I know he's out for the year. And then Marlon Humphrey has still been a fairly lockdown cornerback. Offensive line-wise, it's been good. Hasn't been great. I think they're reaping the benefits of that Orlando Brown trade, as he was very poor last night for the Chiefs against the Giants. But again, this is a tougher one. It's like the Bills, because they were on the bye week, so you can't really talk much about what they're doing right now. They've been good, and I think this team is again arguably a Super Bowl contender, a contender for their division and for their conference. So I think that's what the Ravens are. Whenever Lamar Jackson's your quarterback, you always have a chance. And you guys know I'll continue to say it, Rashad Bateman, what a player. But let's move on now to number 5, which surprisingly we have the Tennessee Titans again. Prayers up to Derrick Henry, man, out for 6 to 10 weeks with a Jones ankle injury, if I'm not right, a foot injury. Obviously has to get surgery. I'm 7-1 in fantasy. I lost Ridley and I lost Derrick Henry. In no way am I trying to, obviously football is, or mental health is much bigger than football. At that point, it becomes secondary. But fantasy-wise, it hurts the team a little bit, especially because I'm first, only team 7-1, hoping to win the championship this year. But Derrick Henry's out, so it's obviously terrible, especially for a guy who's been incredibly durable for his size for his entire career. I mean, the past 2 seasons, he has been pretty much injury-free. So it's obviously very unfortunate to see him go down like that, and especially for the amount of time. But then it definitely comes down to the question is, how is this going to impact the Titans? I've seen a lot of people who are like, I don't think this will impact the Titans like people think it will. But, I mean, it has to. At the end of the day, I see it as Derrick Henry is the most effective rusher of the football. He's the very complicated way to say he's the best running back in the league. Obviously, with McCaffrey out, this guy you can't game plan against him. So losing that for a Titans team that I think offensively, beside when you lose Derrick Henry, it becomes a little bit of a narrow passing offense that I'm not sure they're going to be able to pull off or win games with. I think finally the reinstatement of AJ Brown form is good, but I've said it, the Julio Jones trade, I've called him, Ian Dillon, other hosts on our channel called that it was an overrated trade. It has been. He's been in and out and hasn't been as impactful. And then obviously their backup running back will be McNichols. Obviously, how could I forget? They signed AP to the practice squad, but then they're elevating him to the current roster. So we'll see if he can make an impact. And then defensively, it's a team that we've seen step up, obviously, in that performance against the Chiefs, really, showcasing that defensive, prowess that they've gained throughout the season. But I still think the Titans, the loss of Derrick Henry is going to impact them. I'm not going to come in here and say that it's not going to. I think this team will probably drop in the rankings. I wouldn't be surprised if they get out of the top 10, and I think it just came at the worst time because they were hot. But I still think Tannehill's a good quarterback, so I think that they'll be able to, claw their way to a playoff, berth. But we'll see there. Now, moving on to number 4, team that's dropped a little bit, and that's the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Cardinals were probably the best. I think they were the best team in the NFL going into that Thursday night matchup, and then they were obviously beaten at home against the Packers without any Devontae Adams, without any Bakhtiari, I believe, without any Jair Alexander. I believe Darnell Savage didn't play either. And then the irony of their old practice squad player Rasul Douglas picking Murray off to win the game, and really a just kind of awkward sequence of play. But I think excuse me, not the Packers. I think the Cardinals have fell a little bit. Obviously, you can probably assume what teams are ahead of them at this point, but I think it's a little bit of a slowdown. Murray wasn't that great. J.J. Watt, I think, is out for the season. I'm not sure. I don't know if has there been confirmation if he is. I know he tore his pec and he tore a ton of, I believe, muscles here or injured, so I think he's out for the season if I'm not wrong. But besides that, it's still a team that, that offense arguably is the best in the league with Hopkins, AJ Green, Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk, obviously Chase Edmonds, Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake. What team is Kenyon? No, Kenyon Drake's on the Raiders. Excuse me. James Conner, a very good bruiser back to receiving back kind of backfield. And then obviously the acquisition of Zach Ertz has seemed like it's going to pay off very well. So this team could be number one next week. I think they've only fallen because of that loss, and especially since it was at home, and especially since, if you're the Cardinals, you should be capitalizing on an injury-ridden Packers team. So it was a bit disappointing to see, but I still think they're one of the best teams, and it doesn't really knock them too much. As people may think, because this Packers, it's still a very good Cardinals team. I got to give credit to Cliff Kingsbury. I never really thought he was a good coach. He's kind of proving us wrong this year. So praise out to the Cardinals. Do your thing. But let's move on now to number 3, where we have the Los Angeles Rams. Look, I'm a big fan of this team. I think when it comes down to effective football on both sides of the ball, this team really encompasses that. You obviously have Matt Stafford, who I think has been a fantastic acquisition. You really look at the best free agency signings or not free off-season moves. This could have been had to be one of the better ones. Obviously, they just acquired Von Miller. Go check out my other video. I did talk about, I don't think he'll have as much of an impact, but I go very in depth in that one. If you want to check it out, I won't go too much here. But obviously acquiring him makes that defensive line and that defense a lot better, a lot more intimidating for offenses to go against and a lot harder to game plan against. But then you look at that offense, really the problem for the Rams the past several years, you look at that Super Bowl, they were shut out. So if you had a Matt Stafford, if you had an offense like they have right now, you would have been winning too. You would have won that Super Bowl against the Patriots. And unfortunately they obviously didn't, but that's in the past. I think the big reason why this Rams team are good this year is because they found that missing piece, and that was the quarterback. And really, Matt Stafford has been able to do so much with this offense. Obviously, he has not made Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Cooper Kupp has done it himself, but he has been a big reason why Cooper Kupp is arguably depending on what you think, Cooper Kupp could be the best receiver in the league, in your opinion. I think this guy is top 3 right now in terms of production. He's been ridiculous. I'm not sure. I believe he has 12. I know he had. I always forget these stats. I always see them and I'm like, all right, I got to bring that up in a video. He has the most amount of touchdowns in a game in a certain stretch of games, I believe, since Calvin Johnson. He might have 9 touchdowns in 8 games. I think that's what it was. I think it's or 10 and 8. I think it's 10 and 8 games. He's just been really, really good. So we obviously know how good Kupp's been, and then you look at that backfield with Darrell Henderson leading it. Obviously, Akers out for the season. Then defensively, we know the dominance is continuing with Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald. Although it's been hit its fair amount against the Cardinals in weeks prior, but especially still with Sean McVay, this team is a Super Bowl team, nonetheless. And I think this is definitely arguable because you'll see who we have at number 2. I think it's definitely arguable. And number 2, you must be assuming it's the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm a Giants fan, so I will not. You cannot say I'm biased anymore. But I just think this Cowboys team going and winning against the Vikings, and I know, well, Dak's not there, so how can you just bump them up because Ian Rush won them that game? Ian Rush looked better than Kirk Cousins, in the Viking Stadium in Minneapolis. And so I think for them to go out there and get that win and really grind it out, it wasn't a game where there was too much separation between the teams, but I think their ability to go out and win that game showed a lot about this Cowboys team. We've consistently seen, like last year, when Dak's not there, one of their big players is not there, they have not been able to perform. So I think, finally getting that win, and obviously Ian Rush playing very well. And defensively, Randy Gregory has been fantastic this year. And I think a great point, I'm not sure where I saw this, but a great point is, like the Tampa Bay last year, you need most of your players to have record years, or their best season of their careers to go out and win that Super Bowl. And that's what the Cowboys look like they're doing right now. Dak Prescott looks like he'd be having one of his record years. Randy Gregory, Trayvon Diggs. Obviously, they have a ton of players who have been playing at a level we haven't seen them play before, and the Cowboys look fantastic, currently sitting in second, but 6-1 because of that bye week, right behind the Packers and Cardinals at 7-1. This Cowboys team is fantastic. The only reason I put them ahead of the Rams and Cardinals is because that offensive firepower. I just think right now the Cowboys have the best offense in the league, and it's really close. I think you can kind of take it either way, but I think, we've seen, just like the Rams, just like the Cowboys, the Rams find that offense that needed to complement the defense, and the Cowboys have finally found that defense that needed to complement the offense, and that's what great championship teams need, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from last year. And I just noticed I left out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Wow. That is very unfortunate. I'll have to fix that in the comments, but not in top 10. But let's move on now to the next team, and that is the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to fix that now. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I forgot. I do apologize. Tampa Bay Buccaneers would probably be, they would replace the Bengals, and then I would drop the Titans down when they would be at 5. So I do apologize for that. I can't believe I forgot about them. But we'll continue with the video. Right now, I have the Packers at 1. I think that win against the Cardinals solidified the number 1 spot for me. I think that their ability to go out and just, I think that win just really showed us all, injury prone team, not a lot of star players missing, obviously missing Devontae Adams, who's been so fantastic for them, and then going out and winning that game was huge for them. This offense is obviously firing on all cylinders, and that defense has still been good. And they stepped up against a Cardinals team that was arguably the best offense in the league, and they got that big, game-winning interception from Rasul Douglas, who I think was great, and not having Jair Alexander and being able to hold DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, AJ Green to not to hold them, just they don't win, they don't beat you, is impressive, and I think it's just overall been very, very good performance from the Packers. And I think that after that Week 1 loss, they were out to revenge. They were on that revenge tour, and they very much are succeeding. So I think the Packers are number 1 for me. I think very, very good team. I will reiterate, Bengals are at 10. I have Bengals at 10, so we'll go back down. The Bengals so the Titans are at 5. So I would move the Titans down to 6. Move the Chargers to 10. Bengals would be probably 11. So I do apologize for that. I'm going to pin a comment. But I hope you guys did I keep playing the intro. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Do make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on social media, and let us know what you think in the comments down below. This was Cian McDermott from TheeSportsScoop. Any comments you want, follow us on social media if you haven't. Right up there. Follow us on social media. Right there. Follow us on social media. And you can comment anything over there. And we will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.